Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another sleepless night in cyber. I think I've got everything running. I had a good friend who made a suggestion the other day about making sure that I did my startup checklist. So I think I might do a to make sure I've got my everything on. I've got the stream up. Of course, we've got the background on the recording. We've got the mic is turned on. It looks like I've got good mic levels. I got the camera turned on. I think we're ready to go. So, thank you for joining me. If this is your first time here, I'm Jonathan, and this is Sleepless in Cyber. We go through the basic at night activities that CISOs kind of tend to do because they don't have enough time in the day to do them. So let's follow along and have some fun. One of the requests that came in since our last episode was specifically to talk about cyber news and threat analysis. I did just a little bit of that last week, and somebody asked me to, a couple of people actually asked me to do a little bit more in that. We're going to do a little bit more detail. This is live. We're going to just be doing this together, so bear with me. Now, the first thing I do whenever I do any threat analysis is I take a look at our sensors. Now, I talked about it last week. I've got sensors that I have around the network, both inside the firewall and outside the firewall, and I take a look at those to see what kind of real life attacks are happening. It's just a basic intrusion detection sensor, looking at what's happening right then. So let me flip over to that real quick, and we'll take a look at what we're seeing here. So this was last week's. You can see this was last week, a couple of days of last week, and you can see that there was a lot of Singapore, there was a lot of Australia. We have some from the U.S. But Singapore was the big one that we were looking at last week. We were looking at in the episode, and that became kind of the target for the conversation last week. So I grabbed it today from earlier today, and as I'm looking down through the list, we still have Singapore a little bit. We still have some Australia. But the new one for the last couple of days has been China. Nepal has been on there a little bit, but China has been kind of growing in the ranks in this IDS system. So we'll keep that in mind. Maybe that'll play into some stuff that we do in a little bit. It may not. So let's see where this goes. Okay. So I'm going to switch over to my other input here. And we're just going to do some cyber news searches. Now, last week we did some very specific searches. Searches on Singapore, searches on the things that we were seeing in our IDS. This week we're just going to start with just some basic websites. I have a list of websites that I go to on a regular basis. It's different on every machine because I'll find a new website. I'll add stuff back and forth. I apologize for the glare in my glasses. Some of these websites have very bright backgrounds, so there's going to be a little bit of glare. So let me tell you about kind of the websites that I like to use. Now, I like using cybersecurity news websites, and there's a variety, and we're going to talk about some of them. I also like using just regular news sites. And then I also like searching for very specific terms. But everyone has their own list of things they like to watch. I actually, one of our ISSA weekly Slack channel group get-togethers, we've talked about this, and everyone kind of throws up their own sites to see which ones they like, and I grab and choose, and it changes, changes over time. So let's pick. Let's do bleeping computer. That's a good start one. We're gonna hit all of these tonight. So here's what I do, and I think a lot of CISOs do this. I know security analysts will do this, but if you're an IT professional, or if you're an up and coming CISO, an upcoming cybersecurity professional, this is something you should get in the habit of doing. So what we're going to do is we're going to go through a variety of websites, look at lots of different articles. We're going to talk about them, and then I'm going to create a list. Literally, it's going to be a CISO list of things that I need to look at in the morning. Either I need to look at, or I need to have some of my staff look at. So there's a kind of a process that I go through. I look for things that deals with tools that we may use, deals with higher education, deals with things that it really makes sense for my organization. But we're going to talk in general terms tonight, since we're doing this together, and hopefully you guys can get something out of this. So okay, so this is the first one. I have a list of them up here that I have on this particular laptop. This is what I've got. So let's just pick the first one, the bleeping computer. Let's go down through here. We've got Apple backports a fix for actively exploited iOS 0 day to older iPhones. So there must have been a 0 day that came out specifically for older iPhones, or that was not patched on older iPhones. So just kind of reading through here, the flaw is tracked CVE 2220223289 out of bands, right vulnerability WebKit. If exploited, it allows attackers to perform arbitrary code execution remotely by tricking their targets into visiting a maliciously cracked. Okay, so that piece is really important. This particular vulnerability could allow someone to run code just by someone visiting a website. Now this could be used a lot of different ways. It could be a text message that goes through, an email that goes through. It could be a hijack of another website. When you go to a website, you get a lot of pop-ups, or a lot of different websites that do ads. You may go to a reputable website, but they have a secondary website in there that gets taken over, and you get compromised from that website. So, when we're looking at this, when we have a particular flaw that is in a set of tools that we use, iPhones and iPads, this is something I need to worry about. So I'm going to come here, and here's what I do. I take the website. I come here, and I phone, talk to support, and send note out to campus, maybe. So, and these are just my notes. These are my notes for me. You guys take the notes that you need to help you remember what you need to do. Okay, so that's the first one. So I'm just kind of putting a list together of things that I need to think about tomorrow. All right, so let's go back. Let's see. AdGuard's new ad blocker struggles. Google Chrome bug lets sites write to clipboard without asking. Well, that would be interesting. Chrome 104 accidentally introduces a bug that removes the user's requirement to approve clipboard writing events. That could be an interesting attack. So it means that, again, just kind of thinking through it, it means that a tool can write to your clipboard without talking with you, without you giving approval for it, and you didn't do a Control-C. I could, just kind of looking through here, cryptocurrency wallet, I could absolutely see this as an attack method for if you have to go to a website and you copy and paste your account number, if it's a really long account number, maybe some credentials, and the tool will put in the wrong account number. Kind of think of it as maybe if you were sending sending a payment somewhere, and it puts in its own account number. So anyway, interesting, interesting attack. Get web page permission to use the clipboard API. Test the Safari and Firefox and the pressing of the down arrow keys. And it has a way to check it. So interesting. I might have one of my staff members take a look at that and just kind of see if we have versions that are vulnerable. So again, just kind of doing a quick evaluation. Let's see. We've got Locker ransomware claims attack on Portugal's flag airline. So it looks like we've had a ransomware attack on an airline. Let's see. We got Microsoft found TikTok Android flaw that lets hackers hijack accounts. Well, this is a vulnerability in a very common application, so that's definitely something we probably want to relay to our staff. Let's see. It's a JavaScript quickly quietly over accounts by tricking targets and clicking a specially crafted. So again, it's an attack that's coming in over email. It could be an attack over a text message, attack on a website, and it could be leverage the vulnerability to hijack the account without the user's awareness that the target simply clicked a specified. I mean, really what this is showing us is we have another attack out there that has a variety of delivery methods, and all it takes is a user to click on something. So in my notes, I'm going to this website awareness, single click vulnerability. Again, these are just my notes for me, and that's just to figure out what I need to draft to send out maybe to critical users on campus or in your organization to kind of think about the attacks that they may be vulnerable against. All right, so let's go to the next one. We've got Ukraine takes down a cybercrime group, hitting crypto fraud victims. Hackers hide malware in the James Webb Telescope. Now, I read this earlier, and this is actually pretty interesting. A new malware campaign dubbed the well, you guys can read this. It relies on phishing emails, malicious documents, and space images from the James Webb Telescope to spread malware. The malware is written in Golang, a programming language that is gaining popularity among cybercriminals because it's cross-platform, Windows, Linux, and Mac, and offers increased resistance to reverse engineering and analysis. So yeah, I mean they're basically embedding code in pictures and letting people open the pictures and run it, and it runs the code and it does some bad things. That would definitely be something, maybe we can see if this is something that we can evaluate in our endpoint protection. They can find it. I don't know much about that. Don't know much about Golang, but that's I find out more about Golang and endpoint detection. Here we go. So let's do. Okay, so now if you remember back to, we've got our IDS information. We've got several different ones coming in from China. And we have some news articles about here, the Chinese attackers. So let's take a look at this one. We got Chinese hackers target Australian government with Scanbox malware. So if you remember, we do have Sydney, Australia on our IDS. So we have both China and Australia on our IDS. So those IP address ranges are coming in and trying to do things to our inbound network. So let's read through this. China-based actors targeting Australian government agencies and wind turbine fleets. Fraudulent after receiving phishing emails with enticing lures and receive malicious. So they're trying to deliver a JavaScript payload in regular phishing emails. Let's see. Security research at Proofpoint, PwC observed the campaign assessed the objective was cyber espionage, which I understand. However, once these attacking groups is okay, so here's the group. Let's talk about that for just a second. Well, first let's finish the thought. It's cyber espionage. I absolutely agree with that, but the issue is if they're getting in and doing something on those IPs, they might be turning around and doing bad stuff outbound. So that's something that we need to take a look at on our network to see if we are seeing inbound traffic from those, which we are, based on the IDS. But then we need to see if we have anything going outbound, if we have compromised machines going outbound to those. So. But let's talk about this for just a second. This is the threat group, security research at Proofpoint. They attribute the activity with moderate confidence to the China-based group tracked as far as from a threat group tracked as APT-40 or TA-43, Leviathan, and Red Ladon. Many of you may not know how to actually do some searching on this, so let's go look up at the attack MITRE website for advanced persistent threats. When we are doing, there we go. When you see articles like this and it talks about the threat group, this is important. This is something that you can do. You can get more information about this because they attribute this activity to these threat actors, and they actually, there's a lot of groups out there. This is the website that I generally use. This is the MITRE attack website, specifically talking about the threat actors or the threat groups. And what they do is they collect their standard operating procedures. How do they attack organizations and what to look for. So let's look that up real quick. It's APT-40. Let's go down through this list. I do not see APT-40 on this list. So TA-423. Let's scroll down. TA, it's not on here. Again, I'm just grabbing really quick information. Leviathan. Let's go look up Leviathan here. There we go. Okay, so what do we know about Leviathan? What does MITRE know about Leviathan? Chinese space-sponsored cyber espionage group that has been attributed to the Ministry of State Security's blah, 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 active since 2009. Leviathan has targeted the following sectors: academia. Well, right there, that's going to concern me really quickly. Aerospace, biomedical, defense industry, base, government, healthcare, manufacturing, maritime, blah 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 blah. U.S., Canada, Europe, Middle East. All right. Well, so now we've correlated some information. We've taken our IDS information, and we've taken news information that's out there into the world. And we've taken some threat actor information. We've kind of put it together that maybe this is something we need to think about. So what I like about MITRE is it gives us a lot of really good information. Number one, it kind of tells us what they do and how they do it. So when we look over here, the techniques used, collecting, let's see, established domains that impersonate legitimate entities. Victims' data exfiltration. They use bits admin to download additional tools. A JavaScript. They've used VB script. They've used compromised social media accounts. They've used compromised email accounts. They staged data remotely. Okay, download a C2 channel, which is command and control. Lunch money. Okay, so this is Leviathan's been around a long time. They've done a lot of stuff. So. And it tells us in here that they work kind of all over the world, Canada, Europe, Middle East, Southeast Asia. Sometimes they'll also have the different names on them, associated names. So this is something we absolutely probably want to take a look at. So I'm going to grab this. and put that in my notes here. IPs. Put this in, and I'm going to go ahead and grab this because I think I'm going to pass that out to my staff so they can see it. And I'm sure they've already. Oh, not that. Apparently, my copy and paste skills at midnight 20 is lacking. So let's come back here and copy that. Come down here. All right. So there we go. So this is information that I want to spend some more time on, and I want to get some more eyes on it to see if it's something we need to worry about. Specifically, we're going to do what we did last week, and we're going to go look at that inbound and outbound traffic on our firewalls, and we're going to see if there's anything with the stuff that we have in the MITRE ATT&CK. It also gives us some information that we can go look at our endpoint protection, our vulnerability tools, and see if we have anything going on, any IOCs that's going on in the network. So okay, well that's good information. So let's continue on. Let's see, we got Chrome extensions. Here's one. We were actually talking about this today in our Slack channel for ISSA, or for our Oklahoma ISSA group, and it's Chrome extensions. And one of the questions that came up, one of the questions I asked is, how do we find what kind of Chrome extensions we have on campus or in our organizations? Chrome is not necessarily one of the tools that organizations manage a lot. I mean, it's not like Edge or something like that. So being able to go in and look for specific extensions on the box is pretty difficult. And there were some tools that were that were found and provided in the chat. So this is definitely something that I'm going to go ahead and put this down just for good measures. But it's definitely something I want to talk to our tech support about to find out. Talk to tech support for, and I know that's really small for you guys. Let's see if I can make that. How about that? I'm sure you guys can't read all of my my chopped up words and such, but talk to tech support for, let's see, Chrome extensions. I'll put the article there. So understanding exactly what Chrome extensions we have and being able to determine which ones we need to get rid of, that I think would be extremely useful. So let's go back. Now I'm going to jump off bleeping security, and I'm going to take a look at some of the other websites here. We're already at about 20 minutes or so, and I want to try to keep this about 30 minutes. 'Cause I think if CISOs and IT security professionals can take about that 30 minutes and just sit down and do some review on their logs and on their threat intelligence and threat analysis, there's so much good stuff that you can come away from. Now you can see in here, I actually have a couple of European websites, or websites that are specifically talking about Europe news, cybersecurity, and I started looking at these, of course, back a few months ago when the Ukraine and Russia was really in the news, and there was a lot of fear coming in from the cybersecurity side of what was going to happen. This is a very typical process that I think every security professional needs to go through, is what is happening right now in the news, and what is the types of things that people are going to be seeing in their environments because of that news. So this when I'm going through, I've certainly got the Russian Russian cyber threat overview and advisories from CISO. They haven't posted it in a while, but here are the advisories. But I do check them. I do check to see if there's anything new coming out. The Daily Swig, this is one that I kind of keep an eye on. Good information about what's happening. This one is specifically in Europe, and you can pick the different ones. Let's go dark reading real quick. Let's just kind of flip through here real quick. Crypto, Crook, Spread, Trojanize, Google Translate app, and watering hole attack. The ongoing campaign is spreading worldwide using the lure of fully functional Google Translate applications for desktops to help. So if you've got an organization, maybe you're multinational, and people are using Google Translate, or if you've got something like a global education department or a department that travels a lot, it's possible that they do or would use something like this. So maybe this becomes a targeted email for those groups. Maybe you tell everyone, but maybe you let people know, like, hey, be careful, of the apps that you use and the tools that you use. Here's the James Webb Telescope images loaded with malware again. That's one of the things I really like seeing is when I see the same news article on multiple websites. You'll always find websites out there or news articles out there that are kind of one-offs. But if you see it on a couple of different websites, it gives it just a little bit more validity of maybe you need to think about it a little stronger. Maybe it's not just a one-off issue. It's a broader issue to think about. And it wholly depends on if you wear a foil hat or not. There are days as a CISO I need to wear the foil hat and be extremely paranoid about what's happening, and any bit of news I'm right there on top of it trying to figure out what the risk is to my organization. Some days less so. Just depends on the day. So let's see. Malicious Chrome extensions. Well, we got the Chrome extensions again. So Chinese attackers going after Australia. That's another article. And this is, again, these are from Dark Reading. Phishing campaign targets PYPI users who shoot malicious code. Let's see. Silver emerges as a Cobalt Strike alternative for malicious command and control. I'm going to take a look at that one real quick. There's really no rhyme or reason why I'm picking the... Well, there is a rhyme and reason. But I'm picking some of these just so I can quickly go through them and we can talk about them real quick. And see if there's anything that I need to immediately do. And I kind of break it up like that. I think about, what do I need to do right this second? What do I need to do tonight? What do I need to do tomorrow? What I need to do tomorrow day, tomorrow morning versus tomorrow day. So let's see. You hone their ability, blah, blah, blah. I think it's driving the trend. Yep. Okay, from Microsoft this week warned about observing nation-state actors, ransomware and extortion groups, and other threat actors using Silver along with, or often as a replacement for, Cobalt Strikes in various campaigns. Among them is Dev0273, financially motivated threat actor. Again, if you could take this and go back to the threat and determine if you can find more information about them, just a quick look. Finn, what was the numbers? Oh, I lost it. There we go. Finn 12. I got Finn 10. So not everything is in here, but you do a little bit more searching, I bet you could find it. Oh, here we go. Let's see. Servers engaged in human-operated ransomware attacks. Use campaigns targeting organizations in multiple sectors: government, research, telecom, and higher education. Again, this is one that I'm going to, I see that, and again, I start thinking about exactly what we need to do to mitigate this. So, and somebody asked me once why higher education is such a good target. And there's a lot of reasons why. Number one, we've got big internet pipes. We've got a lot of machines. I mean, a lot of students, a lot of student machines. So it's something that we have to think about. So you really need to evaluate your organization and your network to determine what are your risks and what is your threat in that, and because of your specific environment. I've got a friend who's got a lot of individual unmanaged devices spread out all over the U.S., and it's really hard for them to make changes on those. So they really lock them down tight because they can't always get to them easily. So, I mean, and that's his particular environment that he lives in or he works in. So that's something you got to think about. What is the environment that you are working in, and how are these things, these news articles and stuff, going to affect you? All right. So that, I mean, that's definitely something I'll probably need to kind of keep an eye on. Sliver. It's not silver. It's sliver. And that's how the brain works. You know, mixes the stuff in the middle of the word and goes to something that you can think of, or your brain automatically recognizes. All right, let's see what else. Now let's. It's coming up on midnight 30, so I want to jump over. A lot of people use Reddit. And I want to talk about that because I like going to the individual websites, and I'll spend half an hour to an hour going through. Of course, we talked about a lot of this stuff, so that kind of slowed me down on this. But a lot of people will use something like Reddit, and they'll do the postings, and I like this stuff. I read this, I watch this. Hackers hide malware in James Webb Telescope. Well, we've already covered that article. We've got Russian streaming platform. We've got Apple. We've already read that. That's one of the first things I'm going to go take a look at. We've got ransomware here, APT40. We've already looked at that. So Reddit is a lot of times it covers the same articles that you already read. So you could look at Reddit the first time and kind of go through this. Happens to be InfoSec News channel. But you could go through this and you can see how it bounces you over to Bleeping Computer and Krebs. Krebs is certainly a very well known website, and I look at that pretty regularly. But I don't want people to just rely on something like an aggregate site like Reddit, because I think you get a lot of value in going and looking at the website and looking at a broader picture. Also important to look at not just these websites. Go do a search. If I do a search, like earlier, we talked about Australia. So, yeah, cyber news. I'm not sure I spelled that right, but Google should help me. Oh, yeah, got the I in the wrong spot. So if I just did cyber in Australia, cyber news, I get a couple of information that I get a couple of websites of information that I may not get in my normal searches, or maybe. So I do see the Daily Swig. I could switch it over to Australia, but this is something that I'm going to do. I did it in the last episode with Singapore. I do it here in Australia. I do China. Sometimes, there's so many websites, so many news stories. You're not going to get a lot of data, or you can get so much data it's not going to be useful to you. But this is something you need to do. Have your websites that you like. Go through them, determine if it's something that is important. Like this one, this is not a cyber website. This is specifically a UK News World website, and I want to know what's going on. It's not just cyber. I want to know what other news is happening. What kind of attacks are happening. We have Gorbachev died, and how might that affect cybersecurity? How that might affect the network? There's a lot of different things. So don't limit yourself on cyber news. Don't limit yourself on Reddit. Make sure you go out there and you find good things, good information out there, and then take that and turn that into intelligence. How does that affect your organization? Okay, so let me talk about the. So it looks like we're at midnight 30 right now. So let's talk just a little bit about the article or the notes here. What I'm going to do, I'm going to flip me back over to a picture of me so you guys can see me a little bit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take these notes now. I'm going to fill them out a little bit more, so because I did a lot of acronyms in here. I chopped words up. So I'm going to take this, and one of a couple of things is going to happen. Number one, I'm probably going to send it out to my staff. I'll probably throw it out into the Teams chat and let them know. It's like, hey, here's some news articles. And they do the same thing for me. If they see something, they'll throw it out there. But we use that to go back and forth. If I find something, I let them know. If they find something, they let me know. And it's just a good idea, so everyone sees things a little bit different. The other thing, too, that I'm going to do is I'm probably going to take some of this information and I'm going to turn it into a computer security or IT security warning that gets sent out to maybe sensitive users on campus. Maybe that's our users that have access to PII, or maybe our travelers, or someone that's like, hey, we have an increased threat, and here it is. It gives me an opportunity to stay in touch with them, to let them know, to let them be aware of these attacks. And a lot of times I actually don't call it security awareness anymore. I call it attack awareness, because I want them to know about these attacks. I want them to know how the attacks are going to come into the organizations. And then we've got, the rest of these things are going to be things that I want to take a look at for vulnerabilities. Certainly anything we have on MITRE, I'm going to go and see if we have any indicators that those particular threat actors are on campus and doing outbound. Indicators of compromise, maybe hitting IP addresses, indicators of compromise on the host, like we have script running, or we have other attack methods that they have used. And let's see, 30 minutes or so. And I think we've got some pretty 30 minutes of looking, I don't know, a dozen or so, half a dozen articles. I was able to kind of get a good starting point for my task list for in the morning. I've got a task list for notifications going out to campus, and I've got some things I need to look at for compromise. Now, I'll tell you, I have spent hours upon hours doing this stuff in the middle of the night, hence Sleepless and Cyber. But I try to limit it. We try to get some nuggets of information. Saying how you eat an elephant. Cyber news and threat intelligence is definitely an elephant, so you kind of do it one piece at a time. So I try to limit it in terms of what I'm doing, and you see how much I in 30 minutes. I don't think I go much beyond that more, unless I go down a rabbit hole. There are times when you find a threat actor, you start going through the MITRE, and you start bouncing around, and it becomes a rabbit hole, and you can do this for hours. But the whole intent is to protect your organization. So I really want to get information as quickly as I can from these websites and jump around to different stories and see what's really actually happening right now. So, the intent of this episode was this basic information for a CISO list, to review some